a practice version of my speech that I've written for Nga Manu Korero, which is a speech competition that I'm entering in with my school. I didn't have much time to prepare for this actually, but I'm kind of, yeah. I'm leaving tomorrow to go and practice this, so this is how it will probably be at the competition. I'll put this on YouTube and Facebook, and you guys can all watch it, and wish me luck. So I'll just get into it. Ready? And I always tried to aim high in school. Earlier this year, I was trying hard to get merits and excellences. I would take the NCEA standards and study them and make sure that I knew everything that I needed to do in order to pass the standards and get a good grade. And sometimes I admit that I would spend more time studying the standards than actually studying. Until I found myself working on a history project on the Bosnian crisis. And even though I was explaining the Bosnian crisis and I was probably going to pass the standard, I didn't actually understand the Bosnian crisis completely myself. And I asked myself a question then that I'm going to ask all of you. Why are you studying? What do you want to do with your life? And how is your study going to help you with that? I chose to study history because I wanted to know more about the world and the way society works. And I did that because I know that knowledge and skills and education are really important in life. But here I was, writing about something that I didn't understand, cramming all my studies just to pass exams. When I was a little kid, I used to think that exams were called tests because they test what you learn. But what was I actually learning? When I was in primary school, I took te reo classes. Now, these classes would work like the teacher would say a phrase of te reo Māori, I would repeat it, write it down, practice it with classmates, walk out of the classroom, and completely forget it just like that. As a little kid, I didn't realize how useful te reo Māori would be to me. So I didn't put in the effort that was required to learn a language. I only put in enough effort to make the teacher happy and get out of the class, because I thought the way they were teaching it was boring. You know, I think possibly the most important thing that any of you have ever learned was your first language, was how to talk in English or whatever your first language was. Because as a little toddler, you saw that to be a grown-up part of society, you would have to talk. You would have to communicate with other people. And you saw how useful that would be to you. So you started making noises, and then you started making words. You applied yourself as a little baby to learn how to talk. And you succeeded in that. And learning to talk is not easy, but you succeeded. And that is proof of how your brain can do great things. Do you like the school that you go to? I love the school that I go to. My school, Te Karaka Area School, uses creative teaching methods that are often experimental. In their classrooms, I always feel like my teachers actually want me to learn and not just to get good grades. They allow us to learn things that we're passionate about, that will interest us and motivate us to learn. It makes learning fun. I think learning should be fun. In our classes, I also like how we're given the opportunity to work without a teacher. And there's no teacher to keep us on task. Some kids think that they can just kick back and do nothing, and they waste their own time. But when the students learn how to keep themselves on task and how to discipline themselves and make themselves do their work, that is a skill that is used in a lot of careers these days as people are working more on computers, working at home. One of my future aspirations that I really want to do is to be a writer. Writers usually work from home. If you're a writer, you work from home and you write, and if you don't do your work, if you don't discipline yourself and make yourself write, you're not going to get paid, and you're not going to have any money, so you're basically unemployed. You can study writing till the cows come home, but if you can't actually write, you're kidding yourself. Earlier, last year, I went on a short-term mission to India. And in India, probably my favorite thing to do was when we would help children. We would talk to children. We would help them practice their English because most of them learned English in school. We would teach them songs and stories and Bible verses and play with them. And helping those children to learn really helped me to learn, helped me, motivated me to want to do that in my life. I think that the lack of education really causes poverty. If you don't have any knowledge, nobody's going to employ you. If you don't have any skills, you're not going to be able to keep a job because you're useless. So, education is really important. There are 775 million people in this world who are adults but never learn to read. And the education is a privilege, even though it should be a right. Education is your most important tool in life. Are you going to learn it? Okay, that's my speech. I probably didn't. That rehearsal didn't go as well as some other rehearsals. It's kind of hard for me because I have to keep this down to 6 minutes. I think that might have gone over a little bit when, but yeah, that's a basic. That's what my speech will be like on the day probably. So yeah. I really believe what I'm talking about, and I saw education on the list of subjects that we could choose to speak about, and I was like, yeah, I'll talk about that because I actually wanted to do a thing on education, and learning methods are really important to me because I'm a bit of a polyglot. I love to learn languages. So and just I love to learn in general. I don't want to be dumb. I don't want to live a life and not know stuff. I mean, come on. And learning's fun to me. So yeah, I'm really passionate about it. And I'm also really passionate about my school. I'm not just saying that to impress my teachers or anything. I really do like the way my school teaches. There are some things that I don't like about my school, but the things that I do like are enough to keep me going to the school at this point. So if I wasn't learning, then I wouldn't go to that school. I'd go to a traditional school. So they must be doing something right. So yeah, that's my speech. And now, when I talked about merits and excellences, for any of you who are adults and don't have teenagers, or you're not in New Zealand, so you wouldn't know, we have our last 3 years of high school. We have merits, excellences, and achieved grades. Only 3 grades. The achieved grades, the A grade, is actually not good. It's like kind of you passed, but you didn't do that well. Well, a lot of students aim to get achieved, but it looks really good when you're going into a university when you have merits and excellences and stuff. So yeah, I try to get merits and excellences, especially in English, because that's probably going to be a really important subject for me. I want to study creative writing or like teaching English, preferably both.